Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here, and I am glad to be here. In Keith Cunningham's great book, The Road Less Stupid, there's a chapter entitled, Never Let a Crisis Go to Waste. Well, we are in a crisis. We're all in it together. How can we learn from each other? How can we grow together as we go through this crisis? May I share a story from a client and a dear, dear, dear friend. He's a conservative Jew, and he's used to, on Shabbat, to be able to go down to the synagogue with his son, if his son's with him, and to be able to open up the Shabbat, the Sabbath for him, the appropriate Jewish way, with reading from the Torah, and also reading some songs, and being able to bring it in that manner. But of course, being in quarantine, they're sitting out on their porch, or quarantine, self-quarantine, whatever you call it. They're out on the porch, and they're just thinking, how do we start this? And Mark looked around, and he saw different people sitting on their porch. And he counted, maybe we have a quorum out here. So he stood up, and as loud as he could, screaming, if you will, he started reciting the verses and moving into the songs that go along with it. And sure enough, the other men stood up on their porch and started singing along with him and quoting the scriptures along with him. What a great experience to have with his son. Shortly thereafter, a man was walking along the street, and he looked up at my client, my friend, and he said, "Who was that?" And he said, "Well, that was all of us." And he says, "We heard it over on the other block, and we were able to do the same thing there. Thank you for doing that." So Mark named that the Who Was That Moment. He and his son talked about that. They agreed that probably in the future they were going to have future Who Was That Moments, maybe not necessarily related to Shabbat. It could be related to anything. Anytime you stood up and had the courage to stand up for what you know is right, no matter what, and to do it without expecting anything in return can be a Who Was That Moment. And this feelings that they had, this joy that they had, they captured it in that title. When you can have an experience and title it, you put a handle on it that you can transfer to future people and to future generations. I can envision his son sharing that with his kids and his grandkids. I can envision even them sharing it, where they have Who Was That Moments that maybe have nothing to do with Shabbat. Now, what are your Who Was That Moments? Are you capturing them? How can you capture them? You start journaling. You write your stories down. You say, what would we learn from that? What story can we do? Can we create a title for that, a handle for it, so we can hand it off? I had a Who Was That Moment. It was a little bit different. I was out hiking this last weekend, and I was probably in over my head. And I passed a hiker, and I asked him, I said, "Do you know the trails up here?" And he said, "Yes, I hike here all the time." And I said, "Well, I'm trying to go around this way. I think there's supposed to be a trail that goes up and over." And he says, "That's a very difficult trail." I said, "I'm used to difficult trails." He says, "Well," he says, "No, I mean, it's really difficult. And it's hard to see, and you're not going to know." He says, "Let me help you." Well, it didn't take me too long. We rounded a corner, and I knew it was over my head. But I had him with me, and I had to be macho, right? I couldn't say, well, this is a little bit too tough for me. And boy, I'll tell you, I was challenged and I was afraid. And I would just have to keep my head in it and keep going. But we reached a spot on a dry waterfall with about a 30, 40-foot drop where you had to position yourself in such a way that you had to step onto the waterfall, which was slick, sandy waterfall, and then grasp this one thing and then make a leap over. Well, he handled it just fine. But me, I was looking down. And I was thinking, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to do this? It's too dangerous to go down for me, and it's too hard for me to go up. So I said, I don't know. And he could see I was looking around, and then all of a sudden I saw a hand come down, a gloved hand. And he says, "Can I give you a hand?" And he was able to secure himself in such a way that I was so happy to see that hand, and I grasped that hand. And 2 seconds later, I'm up on the ledge with him. And away we went with a marvelously wonderful experience for the whole time. What a day and what an experience. But the gloved hand, that gloved hand, I will never forget it. And the lesson that I learned was all about vulnerability. It was all about setting my ego aside. It was all about the willingness to accept which is something that's been very difficult for me. The willingness to accept when people offer. Not just the willingness to give, but the willingness to accept. So there's another lesson that we've learned. What lessons can you learn? Are you capturing these experiences? Can I encourage you to journal, to write, to look, to see, what can I learn today from these experiences and capture it? Those will be the most valuable things that you'll take out of this crisis. This crisis should not be wasted. We're all in this together. Let's continue to share together. Let's continue to grow together. And let's begin and then let's enjoy the fruits of this as we come out of it. Thank you for being with me today. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.